there was this idea that America wanted to just take and separate children from families of native tribes.
Oh, yeah.
So
Same.
if you're familiar, yeah. So if you're familiar with that idea, they were just doing that, and my great grandfather ended up meeting her through volunteer work, and they really hit it off. The biggest problem was for everybody else, not for them, was that she looked very dark in skin color, and I mean super dark. We're
Yeah.
Tuscaroran tribe, so
Okay.
yeah, it was. So I'm basically the finished whitewashed version of that idea, you know. It's,
Well, I can see some Native American in you, your cheekbones, and yeah, you got that kind of vibe, with
there
some
are
crazy Irish in there too.
He definitely has a vibe.
also I come from a long line of German prostitution. Um,
Yeah.
my mom's side of the family, all German prostitutes. Not even the good looking ones either. Just like very, bottom dwelling German prostitutes.
Even the good ones go 9.
Actually, no, they cut the price in half. It's more like $4.50.
Oh, 450.
They're lower priced.
Hello, everybody in Facebook Live Land. We are the Podguyz Podcast, bringing it to you live as we do, 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. Of course, I'm Tony Kaz.
Kevin Neary here.
Of course, we have the ever-loving Picasso, the 4.5 of our 9 group. Les Marquet.
And Sparky says hi on the big board. Sparky's big board, sponsored by merchbooth.com. Merchbooth.com, where you can buy all of your Podguyz Podcast t-shirts, just like the one I'm wearing, for your friends, for your family. Christmas time is along the way. Hanukkah, of course. We don't count Kwanzaa because there are no gifts to be given. And if there's no gifts to be given, why count it at all? So Kwanzaa, go fuck yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't go hard enough on Kwanzaa there. People don't tell Kwanzaa to go fuck itself hard enough, Tony. I'm giving the gift of go fuck themselves.
Wow.
Handing them out all day, Kwanzaa.
Anyways, we are joined by a musical legend. He is a singer, a songwriter. He's an adorable guy. He goes by the name of Pascal Dennis.
Welcome. How you doing? Thank you. Good to meet you guys by Zoom, Tony and Kevin and Sparky. You too, man. I finally see you. I just saw a hat on a microphone there for about 20 minutes.
That's true. See, now Sparky is our special flavor of this show. He doesn't do a lot of talking, but he is our drawer extraordinaire. And the way that we have to explain his Picasso-ish, Michelangelo, Leonardo, and Raphael type of behavior.
Turtles also.
Yeah, I mean Shredder, whatever.
Yeah.
Bebop and Rocksteady. His whole repertoire is what we're gonna call it. Is Chef's Kiss. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. But Pascal, we're gonna get into your life a little bit. And tell us a little bit about yourself, of course,
I got an unusual background. I'm a musician, and I'm an engineer. So kind of 50-50 and
electrical, physical, buildings, non-buildings, anything, everything.
Well, you know what, Pascal? You look a lot better than your online profile picture right here.
One's also drawn by Sparky.
It's uncanny of exactly how much more, I want to say, human features you have than that.
I was having a bad day, when they took that photograph. I don't know. I felt like a cartoon, and I told them not to use it. But anyway, yeah. So I'm a musician and I'm an engineer, and it's a bizarre story in that 30 years ago, I met our producer David Logan, who teaches in Europe, in best music schools in Europe, and he's a friggin' genius. And he and I had a band back then, and we made a record. I was the writer, and
by the name of
called Blue Bedroom, and
very seductive name.
David was fantastic even back then, just coming out of Berklee School of Music. I wasn't that good, and so the record didn't go anywhere. Also, we didn't know what we were doing. So I said,
I
well,
love how you try to sell it, though. You were like, he was really good, but I was shit.
He was. And he still is. And so I said, well, I have to make a living. So I I went back to school and I finished my engineering, and then I started a company and I traveled around the world for 30 freaking years. I started a family. And David went to Hollywood of all places, and he became a big success in TV. Like he was on like Sex and the City and shows like that, doing the music for them.
Wow.
And so I still had bands, and I played and I wrote. I got better and better, and I took piano lessons and all this stuff because I couldn't stop, right? Anyhow, fast forward to 2020, and the friggin' pandemic hits, this awful event that killed whatever it was, 7 million people. But
Say it slowly, Pascal.
I think they took the scoreboard down on all major news networks now.
Did they?
Remember they used to have the scoreboard like dun, like 400,000, 4,000 people dead right now from COVID-19 related. And everyone you would ask about the whole situation, they'd be like, "How do we know that's the real number?" And then my favorite one was more people die of the flu. And I don't know anyone personally who has died of the flu. I've never gone to a funeral where they're like, flu. Normally it's heroin, suicide. Like those are the two bugaboos.
Well, I tell you, for me, it gave me a gift I'd never had before, which was time. So I didn't have to travel, and I just disconnected everything except my little studio, and I just started writing like a fiend. And I don't know what happened. Something weird happened. I just got really good really fast, and I don't know how. It was probably all that pent up energy and all the writing I'd done. Finally, I got the 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 hours, and I thought, holy cow, who's writing these songs? Because they're better than I can write. So I called up my old friend, and he's in Rome at this point. He's teaching in, Santa Cecilia, oldest music school in Europe. And I said, David, I've gotten a lot better. Do you still produce? He said, yeah, send me some of your stuff. And he listened and said, holy cow, you've gotten a lot better, man. So
well, at least you got the
what
approval.
the hell happened?
Nice.
So we put together a little band, and we started recording, and we haven't stopped for 3.5 years. Basically, I've written 150 songs, and we've got this incredible band, all these young musicians in and around Rome, largely, although there's a brass band in St. Louis, and we've got a guitar player in Kentucky, and we're just having a fantastic time. We just basically, David and I made a deal. We said, we're going to keep recording with these guys until one of us is abducted by aliens. We just don't care. We're going to keep recording and keep doing what we're doing. And the band is insanely great. I got to pinch myself. I can't believe how good this band is. So I write for them. Like this guy likes bossa novas. I'll do a bossa nova a lot, and just for this guy because he plays so well. This guy likes really snarly 1950 Chicago blues, which I love. So I'm going to write one for him. So, and they can play it all, and they're all young guys, right? They're in their 20s.
Now, question for you, Pascal.
Yeah.
I've seen a little bit of everything that you have going on right now, and it's very, very eclectic. Like you have country, you have satire, you have blues, you have rock, easy listening. Like you do a lot of different genres.
Yeah, we play what we love, and we're retro, I guess, in the sense that we do retro country, jazz, easy listening, big band, not nasty R&B, bossa nova, and other Latin. And so we're kind of a challenge for an audience because we don't fit in any genre. And also, we don't compromise on the length of the songs. So if a song is a 10-minute opera, like a 3-part opera, we're going to do it like a 3-part opera because I just don't care. I mean, we're not doing it to make money. We're doing it for ourselves and to leave a record of what it's like to be alive today, So it's kind of a bizarre thing. And I don't know where the songs are coming from. In fact, every week I have a new song. So the boys say, wait a minute, you got a family and you got a day job and you write all these friggin' songs. What's going on? So the joke was that these aliens, Iggy, Spike, and Lester, have come from Alpha Centauri, and they tell me what to write. So sure enough, a week later, I came back with a song called Iggy, Spike, and Lester, right? It's about our interstellar band. So that's one of the recurring themes. So they're aliens in a lot of these songs. So they're obviously satirical. But
I
yeah,
have an
it's
idea
it's a
about
bizarre thing, man.
a satirical
Well, could you just
movie
tell
about
them the
aliens.
truth and be like, listen, I neglect equally my family and my job. And, just really get into songwriting.
I can see Pascal, right? I can see him writing or drawing stuff up, and he's measuring, and he's like, "Oh shit, oh here it comes." No, wait, 4.5. No, god dang it! Here's another bar of the song. Gotta stop.
Yeah.
He has at his drafting table.
Well,
So-
the weird thing is that my day job has enabled my writing and the music, because the day job is engineering, it's stand-up meetings, it's whiteboards, it's technology. So I've taught these young musicians all that stuff. I'm a Toyota trained engineer. So I've taught them, visual management, standard work, focus, alignment, agile ways of working. And they love it because there's no waste. They say this is the best project we've ever worked on, because all we do is play and just have fun. There's no waste, there's no insanity. In any recording studio, there's these intense hangs that can last for 3 days. And at the end
you
of it,
do have to your credit, Pascal, to your credit, you do have a book out here called Lean Production Simplified, right? Now
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm looking at it right now, brief overview of a formula for efficiency. Is that close to being true?
Quality, safety, environment, productivity. So as I say, I'm a Toyota trained engineer. So I spent basically the 90s as a young engineer at Toyota Manufacturing. And it's just the best way to run any kind of a business. And it's a great way to run a recording studio as well. Now, it's not sufficient. That'll lay a foundation, but you've got to have a passion and a desire and skill and want to do it. But that's a pretty good foundation, because then you don't go insane, which is always a occupational hazard for musicians, especially now, because revenues have dried up entirely, and big tech gets all the value, so musicians are starving all over the place.
I know what you mean. We split $1 a month between all three of us on Spotify, and that's after 50 million downloads, man.
Yeah. Well,
that's why we're trying to push T-shirts through merchbooth.com, where you can
We're
find
right
all
there.
your
Yeah.
Podguyz
Yeah,
podcast T-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, underwear, socks, pajama pants.
hear you,
Not
man.
tops though, but we just try to be a little whorish that way, because call us selfish scumbags if you'd like. Call us anything you'd like. I enjoy a hot bowl of rice every now and then in my belly.
Well,
wow, I get one floret of broccoli.
Floret of broccoli, Tony, you've been holding out on us.
I know, I've been holding out.
Ah.
I need my vegetables.
Well, I got to tell you.
And Pascal, according to your background, for people that can't see and they're just listening on the audio, Pascal is living outside. He's got the daylight where the clouds don't move at all. The flags are staying just still in some kind of quantum realm, which is just great.
Well, this is.
You can tell that it's not Canada.
It's, hey man, it's the Caribbean, and I get
There you go.
the hell out of Canada in the winter. As you know, it's a pretty bad place to be. So there's down in the Cayman Islands, my headquarters is called Macabuca Bar, which I think means WTF in patois, and that's basically where I live in the winter months if I can manage it. So we have a lot of songs about Macabuca Bar as well, and they're all related.
Just
to COVID.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Macabuca, man, and
Macabuca Bar.
Yeah. So anyhow,
in Macabuca Bar.
well, we have a song just came
That's
out.
like Jimmy Buffett. Very much.
It's a song dedicated to Jimmy Buffett. It's called "Another Suffering Bastard, Please." And a suffering bastard is a fantastic rum drink invented by great Canadian Trader Vic. It's a rum drink, and they serve them at Macabuca Bar. So yeah, another suffering bastard, please. We're having a lot of fun.
I don't know if you were able to catch last week's lyrical read of the WAP song.
I missed that one.
Oh my God, we went.
Yeah, thank goodness. Thank goodness, because if
if you're not familiar with the WAP lyrics, right there, they're poetically inspiring to the next generation of future innovators. Also, what Ben Shapiro would call a myth.
It's true. It's true. Pascal, what's your claim to fame as far as your band right now? Like, what's your big song? What do you have going on the horizon?
Well, I guess our most we have a number of really successful funny songs. People seem to like funny satirical country songs. So we've got one called Not Saying It Was Aliens, but It Was Aliens. And it's a
Really funny, by the way. It is really funny.
It's a satire on Ancient Aliens, one of my favorite shows. You know those guys, George, you know, the high forehead, the spray on tan, and all the other oddballs. It's a great show. Like everything is aliens, you know, like Hitler, he was an alien. King Arthur was an alien. So that's
we have proof by just saying the words.
Yeah, so that's been a big success. We have another one called Tricky Dick Forever, which is about a guy who's having a relationship with this woman who works at Tricky Dick's presidential library in California. And she loves Tricky Dick and she's trying to proselytize the guy. And he's crazy about her, but he's competing with Tricky Dick, and he finally loses her because he can't compete with Tricky Dick. That's been, and it's a satire on how divided America is. That did pretty good. We got another one that did really well called Anchorman Blues. So I don't know if you remember or heard about Bill O'Reilly's infamous explosion on the air. He basically went insane.
I love it. Yeah, Tony has those on a daily basis. You know, when we're just like, he's like, fine, then we'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Yeah, so that's what it's about, and we've had a lot of success with it. So, yeah, people seem to like funny satirical songs. We do more serious songs as well. We try to mix what I call it sun color and moon color songs, and the sun colors are funny and upbeat, goofy, and the moon color songs are more serious. But you can't have too much of one or the other, so you gotta kind of balance them, you know.
I mean, Weird Al made how much of a living on just making fun of Michael Jackson and
you
know, just going that route, and then there was nothing after that. He just did his thing, toured a bunch, and yeah, that was it. It was completely. I don't know what he's doing now. He did bring out how little Spotify pays or whatever, which Spotify is supposed to be, and you know these streaming networks that are free to put your stuff out there are supposed to be the beginning stage of promotion for yourself. That way people can get a listen and all that.
Yeah.
And then you have other scenarios where people are like, hey, why am I listening to all this amateur stuff? Can I possibly listen to all the music I'd rather listen to with whatever? And Spotify and iHeartRadio, and they all got together. They're like, sure, why not? We'll pay the artists professionally next to nothing. We're saving their lives because they won't be able to overdose on drugs anymore, and no drug money.
It's a bad time for musicians, as you know, because big tech and the Spotify's get all the revenue. So my heart goes out for musicians. So you got to be subversive. So my answer to Spotify and big tech is a middle finger, and to say, well, I don't need you, because I know how to do marketing better than you all do. Like if we got a major record company offering us a deal, say, okay, we're going to give you 90% and all the rights, and you're going to do what we currently do, but not as good, right? I don't think so, you know. So we're really lucky in that sense because we can do it for the love, and also we've got a really good marketing team, basically, and 2 or 3 people that know what to do, and so we're gradually building up through social media, and we did all the stuff you're supposed to do. We've identified all the channels and the kind of content they consume, and we drip, and you know everything is going like this.
Pascal, so, are you going to say fudge it all to engineering and just do music full time then?
I might. I really enjoy my day job because it takes me to fantastic places. Like I just got back from Bangkok, you know, and I was on the Gulf of Siam in a fishing boat, and the imagery, and we were drinking Mekong, which is Thai moonshine, and these salty dogs are around, and I got my notebook out and I'm just writing all this stuff down. So I got like 4 songs out of the deal. And I would never get to frigging Thailand. Same thing. I got South Africa, and I got a bunch of songs about that. And I got to Australia, and I got to crazy, crazy places in South America. So the funny thing is that my day job supports my music and vice versa, you know. So the funny thing is, for the longest time, I didn't want our clients to know that I was a musician because I thought they wouldn't trust me, you know. But then I said, F it. So here's who I am. I'm a musician. I'm an engineer. You don't want to hire us, that's fine. And it turned out to be like catnip. So everybody is a friggin' musician. So I had a guy, he's a chief operating officer. A couple of months ago, he said to me, you know, I'm a bass player. You know, we started talking about, you know, Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones. Yeah. So
were you ever approached during whenever you say like, hey, I'm also a musician, and then they also disclose themselves as being musicians, right? Did they ever get into the conversation with you? And I'm sure it had to have happened at least once, where they're like, you know, guys, we've been locked in this office here for a good 6, 7, 8 hours almost. Maybe we should just make our own band.
Well, yeah, this guy suggested, he said, you know, next time you're in town, bring your guitar. I said, yeah, why not? You know, so it turns out that people are a lot more interesting than I gave them credit for, you know, and the fact that I'm a musician makes my day job more interesting. So, I mean, I'm at a point I don't have to work as much because our kids are grown up and they've all graduated and stuff. And so I just do it for the fun of it. So if it's an interesting gig with nice people, I'll do it. But our basic rule is no bozos and no jerks and no you know, nasty companies doing horrible things. So, well, we're pretty lucky. We're pretty lucky that way.
Especially now, is everybody that's in the band Canadian as well, or
no? The funny thing is that we've got about half the band is Italian. We have a Sardinian. Our brass band is out of St. Louis. We got a Latin jazz guitar player in Kentucky. So we're from all over the world, and we collaborate through. We got a little tech stack, so it's Zoom and WhatsApp and Slack and a bunch of music software. And again, that's a miraculous thing. So we can collaborate internationally and make, you know, ridiculously good music and have fun. It's, as I say, I'm pinching myself, right? I couldn't have imagined this 10 years ago. So
if you had to pick one person, especially for collaboration that we're just talking about, who would you pick with in particular?
You mean of the greats, the people that I admire?
Yeah, you know, who inspires you to be the better person than you already are?
Well, I got to say, our producer David Logan is a genius, and he's like my blood brother, and we finish each other's sentences.
Nice.
But he's a composer. Like he composes for big orchestras, and he records with big orchestras. So he's my ideal partner. So I come with a song or two every week, and he gives me really, really good feedback. The change is not quite right there. The hook is not strong enough. Are you sure this is the right key? Ba, 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 ba. And then I go back and rewrite it. And he says, okay, now you've got something. Sometimes I go back 3 or 4 times. So he'd be my, you know.
Did he ever say something was just complete shit?
Yeah, oh yeah, a lot of the time.
Oh, okay. I thought he's just like, no, you're gonna have to rewrite that. No, you're gonna have to rewrite that.
Well, you know, you have to appreciate that honesty, because if you know, if you're thinking and you're like, well, no one's saying anything, so it must be good. And then when somebody finally says something, you're like, oh my God, thank God, I thought it was just me thinking this was terrible.
No, he's really honest that way. And I'm pretty tough on myself. One of the lucky things is that I'm really tenacious. So I've been writing songs for 30, 35 years, and 95% of them have been really bad. And I know a bad song because I've written so many of them. So when I finally had this, you know, lightning between the eyes, I knew something had happened. So this isn't horrible like what I usually do. Something's happened. So as I said to David, David, I don't know. I can't write this well, so I don't know who wrote this, but here's what I got. He says, holy cow. So yeah, it's kind of a mysterious thing, you know.
I've only ever made one satire song in my life, and it was about being probed by aliens, and I liked it.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about Santa on the Moon. Since we're in the Christmas spirit here, the Podguyz podcast, Santa on the Moon. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, let me just get my title book. Hold on.
Ooh, he's getting a title book.
Look at. As you can see, Tony, Santa is on the moon. Reindeer.
So-
Santa is on the moon.
Santa's on the moon. So one of our, I won't call it a process. One of our main shtick items is we just make up a bunch of stupid titles. It's kind of like the old the rabbi's joke, you know. The students say, "Rabbi, you've always got a story," and the rabbi says, "Well, it's like I shoot the arrow, and wherever it lands, I draw a bullseye around it." So that's the same way we write songs. And so here are some of the titles that we're working on. My choppers are killing me, and so are you. Curly Larry Moe and little old me. The ship be sinking. 100 songs on tap. I'm in it to win it, and damn it, I quit. Marco Pinocchio and the Marvelettes. No, better not tell that one.
Oh, go for it.
We
No,
are,
tell
we, are
us.
free and we are free and clear for all sorts of language there.
Now, to be 100% crystal clear on this, you're reading off song title names, right?
Yeah.
All right, because I was trying to listen to it as if it was lyrics, and I'm like, I'm
No.
not really getting where this.
We are
song is
18
going.
and over, by the way, Pascal.
So anyhow, so we've
Not suitable for work.
We make up song titles, and one of them was Santa on the Moon, right? Because we get tired of the Christmas stuff. So this is a satirical song. Santa is like a reprobate, and he is bribed by the Chinese and the Russians, and they're putting chips in all the toys so they can get everybodydy's data. So
Don't put this on Twitter; it will gain too much momentum.
So it's about conspiracies, and so you know Fox is trying to discredit CNN. CNN's got a theory, and the G8 is convening in Rangoon. So it's a big political explosion. It's a very funny song, if I may say.
It'll be second to the White Lung in Instagram favorites. Just
Yeah, and Santa's a boozer, and I mean, you'd love the guy. So we're getting a lot of traction, and this is what kills me about our band. The guitar is by a Sardinian boy. He's from Sardinia, and he plays R&B and country blues like Muddy Waters. So I say, Julio, where did you learn how to play that? You're 24 years old, and you're playing like Muddy Waters on speed, you know. He says, I just want to make it sound nice, you know. So it's part of the joy of being in our record. If you listen to the record, say, who's playing the guitar? It's insane. You know, he sounds like Lightning Hopkins or something like that.
now, if you ever called him Italian, would he take offense to that?
I think he would. He'd
Yeah.
He'd put an omerta. He'd put an omerta on me, you know. I'd have to look around and before going into someplace, stand with my back to the wall in Tony's Spaghetti House, that kind of stuff.
We've had several Australians on the show as well, and talking about the feud between New Zealand and Australia, and how if you ever called somebody even Tasmanian or or New Zealanders any type of Australian, oh my God, there's a world war.
People get offended because they have pride in such things, you know, and it's there's been that going on between the Irish and Italians back in the 19 whatever the hell, where you know, one side was like, I'm whiter, and then the other one's like, I'm a slight beige motherfucker.
I taco with my hands.
And then they both got together on down in the southern parts, not in the northern parts. Down in the southern parts, they both got together on just plain old racism against black people, right? And they're just like, well, we both hate the blacks. And then the blacks were accepted because the gays came by, and the blacks were like, I'm not down with that shit. They're like, hold on there, black guy.
We're not either.
We're not about that shit either. Just you know, as long as what I'm saying is what brings people together sometimes is what we can all hate. So now a couple of gay friends I know, a lot of them, they're anti-trans. They're just like, listen, we're just gay. We're not trans, you know. So you know, we're like, get over here, gays. Come on now. Let's fucking. You're right.
That's too funny, man.
So eventually trans people are just gonna hate somebody that the new group that comes by. We're just waiting on it.
Yeah.
I think they're at that point where they all hate the Apache helicopter guy. Pascal, I do see one little tidbit of information about you, and I thought it was kind of interesting. Not only did you come out with several books, but you also came out with a book of poetry as well.
Yeah, I did. As I say, I travel in my work, and I get to these crazy places and bizarre situations. And at the end of the day,
which you can buy on Amazon, by the way.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm usually in a bar, in a saloon somewhere, or in a restaurant, and my notebook, and I just write down everything that happened. And so I most of what I write becomes songs, but some of them are just poems. So I put out a book of poems about my ridiculous adventures, And yeah, I had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun doing it. But my main
begs the question: where the hell is Randy Newman when writing the song "Short People"?
For real?
I got nobody.
I got nothing. Like Kenny Rogers. He's sitting there eating chicken. He's like, no one to hold him, no one to fold him. That'll never work.
Like you're about to have sex with, and then you're like, she's a lady. Thank God,
Wait, hold that pose.
Yeah, I gotta write a song about this sexual encounter real quick.
See, that's what Sparky does. By the way, I don't know if he's on strike today, but he's definitely doing something down there.
I think he's frozen. So, do you tour anywhere? Are you touring throughout Canada, or are you just strictly doing the in-studio stuff?
We don't want to tour because you go broke really fast. So what we're going to do is keep building our audience. At some point, we'll do private gigs. We may tour if we got to hit a certain threshold. Again, the music industry is terribly unfair. So I'm lucky in that I've got people that understand it, so we can make good moves. The worst thing we could do is exhaust ourselves touring, bankrupting, end up with $500,000 in debt and no new music,
Yeah, you don't want a bar feeding you like nothing but Italian wedding soup from 3 days ago and goddamn stale beer,
Yeah, I don't need that.
Might be with napkins that you steal from the McDonald's.
Yeah, well, my heart goes out to young musicians and they're really getting hosed. And I get interviewed a lot, and I'll tell you what I say to them. Say, the game is rigged. Big tech takes all the value. You're just cannon fodder. We musicians or artists or comedians or actors, whatever it is, are just cannon fodder. So you got to be subversive. And I say, look, become a carpenter, be a plumber, do something like that.
I mean, subversive or just submissive to the whole machine, where you're just like, I will do anything.
No, well, no, the alternative is to be submissive to this horrible machine and become cannon fodder. So on the other hand, be a carpenter, get your own business and make a ton of money, and then make records and music on your own. Now you got to be tough. You got to work like a son of a bitch, but you can do it. And rather than submit to big tech and the music industry, which is appalling, no, you got to be subversive.
People like to romanticize the starving artist.
Yeah,
I know. Pascal, you know what I'm talking about, though. The younger generation, even when you were up and coming, when you were, younger and that, you romanticize the idea of, oh my God.
Not even to say sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but.
Well, how many people out there have heard the story before where, and an agent was out there in the crowd and he heard that special song and he's like, oh my God, it fucking turns into every Hallmark movie you've ever seen before where, and that story, by the way, never fucking happens. Normally, whenever you hear that story, it was like
one in a billion.
It wasn't even 1 in a billion. It was the dude's fucking uncle, out there. And he's like, and he just didn't want to tell his friends as his uncle who owns the agency sort of thing. He's like, well, he just liked one of my stuff. It's like, dude, but you're terrible. If you've ever seen somebody that you're better than rise faster than you. Have you seen that before?
I'm sure it happens. I think in the old days, like, there was a live music. There were venues where a musician could make a living and not be living hand to mouth, but those disappeared. There's no live music anymore. And it is what it is. You can't sugarcoat it. The music industry is on it's actually below the basement. It's in the sub basement. It will improve eventually. But in the meantime, you've got to be subversive. Big tech gets all the value. I got a song called Bloodsucker Blues about that. And we'll record it. It's a nasty, nasty kind of 1950s Chicago blues. Very bleak. There's no hope. Be subversive. Give the man the finger.
Sparky may have the cover for that.
Yeah, he's pretty good at drawing cover art. Like, we don't use AI here. We just use Sparky, which we're not 100% sure that Sparky's like the opposite of a robot. He's not technologically advanced in any which way. He has he's stuck with 2G network because he said that 5G was a little bit too fancy, sort of thing.
And we don't let him talk because the only thing that comes out of his mouth is
exactly. Yeah, he speaks in binary codes, nothing but ones and zeros.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is what it is. We're living in a bizarre time, and it's not just music. And I don't want to say, oh, poor us musicians. I mean, look at journalists, right?
Everywhere.
So there are a million unemployed journalists, and there's fake news everywhere. And America's divided into what? How many tribes? 6 or 7, and they all hate each other.
I wouldn't even say that many. Honestly, they've kind of when doing research, people don't want to do that much work, so they kind of take it from algorithm standpoint. So 6 or 7 has given us a lot more credit than just the maybe maxing out at 3 sort of thing. This is a perfect example for your Pascal. If I could take just 1 minute out.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so our election came
down. We are a talk show, Kevin. So
yes, absolutely. So our election came down to in 2020 where the Republicans said, "This is what we like." And they showed some old white dude that said a bunch of crazy shit. And you're like, okay, well, what do you guys got? And the other side of the aisle said, well, we don't got anything like that. Nothing even close. And they said, all right, show us your work. And they said, look at this. And you're like, well, that's some old white guy saying a bunch of crazy shit. All right, guys, you drew the same picture. You have to realize this. So the presidential picks were practically the same demographic of person. And then their underlings were hardcore Christian dude who Mike Pence actually had the Mike Pence show back in Indiana, if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with how fucking crazy he could be. He literally thinks he started off his one show. And Tony, I've watched this show on YouTube. I've listened to it before, not because I'm an enthusiast of the guy, but because it's just entertaining. And somebody says, so I was talking to Jesus today, and boy, we were really going at it. And I'm thinking to myself, you're fucking out of your mind. You gotta be nuts. He's talking to Jesus, Tony. And then you got the other one, and I called it. I called it here on the Podguyz Podcast that Joe Biden was going to pick Kamala Harris as his vice president because it was kind of going to remind him of what Obama looked like. Just fucking pure visual alone.
In a wig, yeah.
And on top of it, first female vice president feels like historical check mark right there. That's what one party's about. So that way it feels like we're getting somewhere. But in reality, we didn't get anywhere at all. No. So when it comes down to demographics, CNN, Fox News, these two stations need each other just so that way they can see whichever way, which one's going. So that way they can say the complete and total opposite thing, no matter how fucking blown out of their mind. Like the Russiagate thing, right? This is what really got me. If Russia is going to fix an election, make sure your boy wins the popular vote, by the way, because why would you even take that chance that, there could ever be a stipulation that, I don't know, it just, that Rachel Maddow is no better than Alex Jones saying that a bunch of kids were crisis actors when you're trying to delegitimize somebody beating Hillary Clinton, who, by the way, would have won if she were to give Bernie Sanders the second job there as a gesture, as even like a gesture of negotiation point. Sparky is in with the big board right there. Sparky, flip that big board around. You haven't said anything all show. We need to hear from you, buddy.
It's a it's a wonderful picture that says, "Hey, stop sucking on his blood. He is turning blue." Hey, I got to write this down. And of course, Pascal Dennis is in the corner with his notepad writing down.
Hey Sparky, can I use that in a song? I think it's got the makings of a great title, man. I like the drawing too. Album cover. What do you think?
10 cents a cover.
10 cents a cover. Oh my God, look at that.
Perfect.
He's pulling it.
And
that's what you call
on $1, Pascal.
Pascal, that's what you call. He's got his own app out there. It's called Sparkify. It's kind of like Spotify, only most of the time it's just Sparky with Star Wars theories that don't exist.
Yeah, he'll literally talk to anyone. He'll just be in a chat room, and then they'll be like, "Hey, Sparky, can you draw something?" And I'll be like, "Okay, wait 1 minute," and they'll type it back out, and then send the picture back over to the Sparkify app.
Yeah, so as far as it's very easy, and I don't know if you guys have this problem in Canada, but it's very easy to just not educate people at all, right? And then even if you are educating them, public school system wise, even if you are educating, you're giving them we're giving people stats on the Gettysburg Address as far as who died and who didn't die and how many people died or whatever the hell. Never in my life have I said to myself, okay, I'm in a tough spot. At least I now know how many people were killed in Hiroshima, because the fuck if I didn't, I'd really be in a tough situation right now. What they're not doing in schools, they're not teaching any sort of common sense or how to live, because if you start teaching that stuff to the poor, they can then become your competition. And if you're the rich majority, that a big chunk of your money goes down to pay for these schools and all the innovations, you're going to want to make sure you rig the game, as if you were talking about rigging the game for artists, musicians, entertainers. All of these people normally, from first generational standpoint, come from nothing and try to make themselves into something. On that note, Pascal, do you have any kids that you're also teaching music to?
I don't directly. My co-conspirator David teaches a big part of his week is teaching. So he teaches in 2 or 3 music schools, and as a matter of fact, his best students joined the band. So most of the people that I mentioned earlier are all David's best students. So personally, yeah, I do a lot of teaching, but not in music. In my day job, I just teach people, how to manage their lives, how to organize themselves, how to focus, how to decide what they want to do with themselves, and then make a plan and just go do it. How to kick ass and take names. So that's my day job, basically. It's in the context of companies and organizations that want to get better. But yeah, that's a big part of what I believe. And so teaching young musicians how to survive and how to live a decent life and have some dignity is a big part of what I believe in,
Yeah, and that's important all around. There are certain musicians that or even entertainers of any aspect, you can give some advice to, and it's going to fall upon deaf ears. And normally they have the most tattoos, piercings all over, big personalities. They know what they're doing. Don't even let them know. You know the deal.
There's a guy that comes to mind, and he was a talented musician, and we were coming up at the same time. We both had bands, and I told him, I said, Nick, this sucks, man. This game is rigged. It's completely rigged. You got to be subversive. And he said, no, I know what I'm doing. And he was dead.
Oh boy.
He was dead within 15 years of, he lived a horrible life. He was addicted to drugs, and, was married 3 or 4 times, created horrible misery in his life and, the women that married him. And he was a good guy. That's what is heartbreaking. He was a good guy. He wasn't a bad guy, but he just fell into this vortex. He didn't know, he just didn't know what he was doing, so I don't want to see other people disappear. You've probably seen it, right? It's not funny.
I've seen it before, especially in the music scene. I started out on first, and then I realized how little I could deal with other people and their ideas. It's especially listen, if I have, we're doing original music and some covers here and there, right? which the one song we did, it was Katy Perry's Hot and Cold. I stripped it down so that way it's acoustic harmonica, small drum beat in the back, right?
Yep.
Well, if you're kicking one person out of, the bass player didn't need to be there, right? So Steve didn't need to be in on the goddamn thing. So he says, he's like, hey, this could really use a bass. And I'm like, man, it actually could use not a bass,
This could use a whole new band.
So he was, yeah, so he was like, well, how about since you're doing the vocals and you're doing the harmonica, you give me your acoustic and I'll just do it that way. And I, maybe I should have compromised on that one, but I was younger and I said, I'd rather actually just do it the way we're fucking supposed to do it. And you can chill the fuck out, take a break, drink a beer, do what you're going to do. Right. Yeah. But people seem to love that song, and up to the point where people came up to me after the show and they said, you know what? A lot of your stuff we didn't like, but that song Hot and Cold, that was amazing. That was really good. And I'm thinking to myself, that was a Katy Perry song. And nothing makes you feel like a bigger piece of shit when you just covered a Katy Perry song just out of a spoof. I thought that the song would sound better, much more stripped down, no female vocals, harmonica thing. And it did sound very good that way. But when you get a compliment on something that you can take zero credit for besides the rearrangement, it kind of sucks from that point. But Steve passed away. That's an overdose right there. Then you got the comedy scene where you see people on like one day, and I was one of them too, where you're drinking every night. I'm close to being 5 years sober off alcohol, 2.5, almost 3 years sober off of smoking cigarettes. Haven't smoked marijuana in about 8 years.
Good
now.
on you.
So, it's just you become dependent on the addiction saying you can't do this unless you're a little fucked up, or you've heard it where you're like, oh, well, if I just have 3 or 4 or 7 or 8 or 9 beers, it relaxes me. There may be a shot on top of the whole idea. It turns into the movie. It becomes a snowball effect where now you have a whole dependency on a chemical out there, and it can really catch some people. I've met my one buddy, Mario. Big shout out to Mario. He is still alive, but he got into cocaine, and then when he couldn't find cocaine, it was bath salts. And if you've ever heard of bath salts, holy crap. One was a psychedelic journey. But you see some of these people on pills, especially if they've been ever prescribed a painkiller. Here over in Europe, they were describing it as 1 milligram of opiate was sufficient for the whole entire body, right? Just 1 milligram. For some odd reason, Purdue Pharma, and it's not even an odd reason, we've seen it before with the cigarette companies. They said that the minimal amount that they would want to give people on a starter package was 25 milligrams. So 25, the maximum amount that they're doing overseas, is coming into the blood and veins over here, which is kind of suspicious unless you know how much money they're shoving in the pockets of politicians. And they're allowed to call that a donation. But when their donation is writing the fucking law to kill its own citizens off, well, politicians will then flip that, reverse it into a philosophy of saying, well, if you citizens were smarter, you wouldn't have smoked cigarettes to begin with. You wouldn't have drank in the high-sugared, syrupy fucking drinks that we give you on a daily basis. You wouldn't be eating all this bad food. If you were smarter, you already know what's good and bad for you. We made the food pyramid, and if you follow that, you get diabetes 2 in fucking 3 years. So it turns into a trick. Constantly, we're 95% of the grocery store. Now, I hate the word organic. Don't you hate the word organic? Shouldn't all food be kind of organic instead of, if you're calling one organic, call the other one super filled with chemicals and other bullshit. There you go. Right off the rip. Pop that right on the front label right there.
We got a song called COVID Blues, and it's about COVID on the surface, but underneath it, it's about the fentanyl, the opioid epidemic. As you know, more people died during the COVID epidemic of opioids. And I go to a lot of small US towns, and you can see it everywhere. So it's about a guy, he's in a small town and he's addicted and his friends are addicted and he can't work because of the epidemic and he knows he's screwed. And it's a really angry song. It's funny on the surface, but underneath it all, it's fun. So I had to do all the research on the various epidemics in America. So I would go on these websites, and they got to know me, so they thought I was an addict. So I was on first name basis with the therapists or the doctors, the suicide counselors, and I said, no, I'm doing research for this song. And then they tell me stories, and they said, oh, it's you, okay, but let me tell you what a typical night is like. It's everything you're talking about.
I just
Kevin.
watched some recent videos actually of fentanyl crisis through Philadelphia, just about 2 hours south of us. And just this one particular street in Philadelphia that's so ridden with everybody just shooting up right in the street and hunched over like they're living zombies is absolutely insane. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it makes people that are going nowhere feel like they're going somewhere when you see the plummet of other human lives just get so much more decrepit. Because you can always do the side by side Pepsi challenge where you say, "Hey, you think your life is bad? Look at that fucker. We destroyed him over there." And you're like, "Whoa, what do you mean you destroyed him? I mean, no. His choices did it. He should pull himself up by his bootstraps." You ever hear that saying?
Yeah,
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps bullshit.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I travel a lot in the U.S. and for all its flaws, I really love America because we have family there, and most of our business day job has been in America. So I've been to literally every state, and America isn't kind of a bad way. What I notice, it's what you said, Kevin. Y'all are not investing in like the bottom 20%. So people have no information, they have no knowledge, no education, and they're stuck. So it's a trap, right? And I don't know what to say. It's just bad because I see it. I see it all. And the other thing that really bugs me and that I'm passionate about, and this is my day job stuff, all the manufacturing jobs were outsourced by the touts. I call them the touts, the elite, and you see them on CNN and Fox, and they all went to China. And people like me learned how to manage a Toyota, and I spent 20 years trying to keep the friggin' jobs in America. And say, no, you don't have to go to China. If you all learn how to manage like Toyota manages, you can keep these good jobs here. And I think we saved quite a few factories, but not enough. And so these poor people have no place to work. They don't get an education, and they're addicted to fentanyl. And then the pandemic hits, and they don't have any champions because, they're not a sacred cow by any means, and then they're not allowed to work. So that's what COVID blues is about. Like, what kind of a hand is that? That's a trap if I ever heard one, And there are millions of people that have had that experience.
It really is, especially people that get hurt at physically demanding jobs. Now, the human body, right, normally can't really last in the work field.
No,
even if you're like, say you get like a really good factory job by the time you're 25, you join the union and all that nice stuff, and then 20 years in, 45 years old, your bone density is at its peak. Is that a big hook?
Pretty decline.
Yeah, if not at 45, it's at 43, it's at 41. Either way, you're either smoking cigarettes, going to the bar with your friends. You're not in the best shape possible because people mentally are not, even robots mentally. They gave the one robot a factory job before, right? And told him its task. It fucking killed itself within 15 minutes.
Did you ever see that, Pascal? That was a great article, actually.
It literally
That's very funny.
It computed to itself that since it was supposed to do this meaningless task for the rest of its life, it would rather just dissociate.
It was a picker in Amazon, so it would pick out products that people would just tell it what to do, and it would pick.
Yeah, I mean, so people should not worry about robots gaining consciousness, because if they realized what world they were going into, they would just say, "Whoa, okay, guys, we're out."
No,
we are doing a hard reboot on this one,
The thing is, it doesn't have to be that way. It is like that in too many places, but there are companies that say, look, you can't treat people like that, so we're going to rotate you to different jobs every 2 hours. We're going to give you lift assists and design the job ergonomically so you can, retire on this friggin' job. So it can be done, but a lot of companies don't want to invest in it. So it's as you say, right?
Don't forget, whenever people have a complaint and it makes them stop and think while people are surrounding the king with all their reasonable questions, they've been given this one. You've probably heard this one before. Real art comes from suffering within and without throughout life. That's where real art comes from, suffering. So your suffering. Eventually,
Where is your suffrage, Pascal?
you'll get some real art out of it.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
but to be honest, like you're Canadian, so your suffering is like, it's a mid.
well, Canada.
There's never a bad day in Canada.
Well,
What are you talking about? There's terrible days in
No.
Canada. Have you ever
We're-
seen
we're in
that?
a bad
Oh,
way.
first of all, Tony
No.
has never seen the TV series Trailer Park Boys, which is totally fucked up. But
You
there is
gotta
a
watch Trailer Park
Every
is
day
the
is
best,
the 7
man.
in Canada.
Well,
watch
I
Trailer Park
wish.
Boys, Tony. That's the real Canada.
That is the real Canada. Actually, Canada is a good country, but we're at a real lull, probably the lowest point in our history. We'll come out of it, but things are pretty bad now. Everything is too expensive. People can't afford rent. Our debt is like worse than it was during World War II,
To be
et cetera,
honest,
et cetera, et
Pascal,
cetera.
who
It's
hates
bad.
Trudeau? Who's a hater of Trudeau?
Probably 3/4 of Canada really dislike the guy.
There you go.
It's not a pretty picture. I mean, I don't want to get
Yeah.
political.
No,
but,
no. Yeah.
It's not a pretty picture in Canada. Now, comparing the two, you guys, like, we're in the basement. You're probably in the sub basement. With all respect, in terms of the politics and the quality of people in senior leadership in America. But
It's
we're
dirty
we're not
work,
we're
man.
not
It's
doing
dirty
that
work.
well. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not doing well in
We're,
Canada either, man. Well, I got to tell you, we got a song that's really getting traction. It's called Bozo Alert. And so I did it ambiguously. It's really about the bozos that we see on both sides of the border and in Europe. It's the golden age of bozos in politics, right? They're everywhere.
Everywhere.
And we're getting a lot of traction. It's a nasty, nasty blues song, really angry. So yeah. And man, people are streaming it, and we're getting we put a clip on it and we get like 20,000 likes and stuff. So there's an appetite for it. So we're going to do many more political songs. We got one we're working on called Nobody Left to Lie To. And we got another one called Fingers in the Till, Double Trouble, COVID Blues. I'm just reading them off. We've probably got 8 or 10 nasty, nasty satirical songs. But we got to decide. Our style now is kind of funny, more funny than nasty. So I don't know, what's the right voltage of nastiness?
That's perfect, because
only one
even in
type of
that COVID era, like there was a lot of low going on, and people were sad, they were angry, they were a little bitter, and then they were like, oh, boo, Buddha, satirical songs and comedy.
Yeah.
And then
I like how we had this thing going on at the time, and it was the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Where now you got the news on that situation, and everyone is kind of, throwing the whole Wizard of Oz thing scenario where they're like, wait a second, how can't they get COVID? Now, white people were saying that because the one thing that white people didn't really consider was that they were marching for a cause. The cause was a very good cause of police brutality against specifically sectioned out black people, right? So it's a very good cause to protest against. But then white people said to themselves, they didn't get to the all lives matter part yet, but they first said, hold on now. And you're like, what is it there, white guy? Why can't they get COVID? And you're like, whoa, hold on now. That's pretty fucked up. That's one thing that wasn't really mentioned on the news until it was eventually, where they're like, oh, well, maybe the numbers go up in the next couple of days in this specific area. So we were locked in. We were doing podcast after podcast, pre-recorded, going on different shows still. I remember me and Tony even having a discussion of, hey, are you okay? And then Tony had a funny episode where they were live with the masks on. Then when the shutdown did happen, I was like, I was like, Tony, what are you going to do? And he's like, listen, I found this app. It's Zoom. Okay. We're going to do the show and we're going to do it from Zoom. And we're still going to keep going.
It came in
Good
first
on ya.
as far as video type of thing. And, not being together. And we were like, all right, well, this gets us all together live, in camera and ready to rock and roll. And there's no lag. There's no difficulties. There's no static. There's no no problems. We, knock on wood.
By the way, we've tried other stuff where StreamYard, and you know how I feel about StreamYard. It just
sucks.
Hurts my soul. Where I'll get on with them, but no, Pascal.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt you. There are some StreamYard snobs, fucking elite StreamYard people who are like, I love StreamYard. StreamYard. No, fuck you and your StreamYard because it's shit. It's a shit product. The bandwidth sucks. Trying to use different products at the same time sucks.
We were invited to a podcast the one time, and Tony, I was sitting here hooked up to my Wi-Fi. It was playing fuck around time on me, right? Tony was literally driving with his cell phone off of a subverted app, answering questions, no problem. And I'm fucking calling him. He's got me on speaker while on the app. I said, "How the fuck is StreamYard working for you seamlessly?"
Wired into the Pentagon itself.
I became the fucking internet like I was Lawnmower Man, But Pascal, I have to ask you a question. Of all your experiences in the entertainment realm, would you count this being on the Podguyz Podcast on Monday night, Facebook Live?
This is a real high point. You guys are really funny, and
peak,
I get a real kick.
This is it. This is.
I gotta say, this is the peak of the peak. There's a peak, and then there's a peak of the peak.
And
is it a plateau and then a peak?
Oh, there's a basement and a sub basement, and on the other side there's a peak, and then there's an uber peak. You guys are the uber peak.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
All right, now just to test mentality out here, did we land on the moon?
Did you guys land on the moon? I met Buzz. You want to hear a Buzz Aldrin story?
We want to hear it. We're ready.
So we had a gig with Lockheed Martin, serious big company, aviation down in Fort Worth. And we were running a session with these big shots, my partner and I, and somebody said, "Hey, Buzz Aldrin is in the factory and he'd like to talk to you all. Is it okay with you guys?"
Is it like Elvis has entered the building and then they're just like, "Buzz Aldrin is in the building."
Yeah. And he came to the room we were in, just on the edge of the factory there, and he just started talking for an hour. And he went to the moon, man. He went to the moon, and he's still gathering money, gathering support for a mission to Mars. And he was talking about it 10 years ago. And I said, "Buzz, you're 80 years old, and you're full of energy. You're trying to go to Mars now. You've been to the moon." And he said, "Yeah, man, if we stop doing that, life's over. You got to keep trying. I'm 80, but I feel 50, man. I feel good, man. I'm going to keep doing this till I drop dead." Anyhow, there was a guy pushing the conspiracy theory that Buzz never went to the moon, and he kept following Buzz around trying to humiliate him. And check this out on YouTube. And he walked up to Buzz and said, "Oh, Buzz, you're a big liar, man. You never went to the moon. You were on a Hollywood backlot." And you know what Buzz did? At the age of 75, he spit on his fist and he decked the guy. Nice. It was fantastic. Nice. Now that is the old-fashioned
way to punch somebody in the face. First, you lube up your fist.
You lube it up. Check it out online. Why you
chew a couple peanuts and then you spit on your fist in case he's allergic to peanuts.
He's a great man. There's a poem in the book I wrote. It's the very first poem is meeting Buzz Aldrin in Fort Worth. He's a great man. He's the real deal. He's an American hero, man.
I'm going to throw in my controversial.
Okay.
Controversial.
Hold on 1 second, Tony. So here we go. He said we were the peak, and we landed on the moon right there. That is mental. Yeah, he's mentally there.
You're
Plus-
the
Put that on the
Uber peak.
scoreboard.
Uber. There's a
Plus,
peak.
plus.
You're the Uber peak.
Now I'm going to bring it down on the swoop, right?
All right.
So, what is, and if you know this, you may know this, you may not know this. What is the major fail of people that go to the moon as far as medical diagnoses of people that happen to go to space a lot? Does anybody in the room actually know?
No idea.
No, I'm gonna say sex with the chimpanzee that was supposed to go there first, and some kind of monkey pox.
Damn it! How did
Kind of
you
like
know?
monkey pox on the cocks there or something, where they're like, "You got something on your dick we haven't seen since fucking evolution, sir."
How did you know?
You know,
He got it. He got it.
I watch Jeopardy for fucking idiots.
No, the number one thing is bone density. Bone density.
Bone density.
Right. So when you happen to go to space and you're there for a significant amount of time, and this actually goes with our with pilots, it goes with people who are in space shuttles, the space station, people who have been in outer space in general. You could only go up there for a certain amount of time before your bone density actually turns into brittle shit. Now,
Wow.
Buzz Aldrin has been to space on several occasions. He was an Air Force pilot. He's flown on many, many missions.
Yeah.
But he is what, 85 now? 80, 87, somewhere right around there.
He was on Dancing with the Stars, for crying out loud. The man
Dancing
is
on the Stars.
serious.
Dancing with the stars.
Think
not
about
with
it.
the stars.
Think about it.
It's not
He was
on the
dancing on the
stars.
stars. No, he was definitely dancing on the
They
stars.
should have had that on the moon. That way, dancing with the stars on the moon.
It was the same backlot.
These are great
It
titles,
was,
guys.
it was the same lot. They're like, all right, Buzz, you know this lot pretty well, right?
These are
He
great
marked
titles.
his dance spot out.
I tell
as
you
he was
guys,
going along.
I'm gonna write a song called "Dancing with the Stars on the Moon," and I'm gonna give you guys a credit. I'm telling you.
Taking it. Yeah.
Perfect.
And the other one is "Dancing for Effing Idiots." I think that's another beauty. Jeopardy for Effing Idiots. I mean, that's just too good, man.
Marky, what do you got there on your big board, buddy?
Sparky's got something to help you out there, Pascal, with your. Go ahead, Sparky. Turn it around. Go ahead. You got this. You got this. I'll
Use
read
your
this
Trump
one out, no
voice.
problem.
Use your Trump
There's a
voice.
Here we
great
go.
robot that can pick items, and we can keep.
Use your Trump voice.
We can have them.
Oh, yeah, you got to have the Trump voice in this.
Hey, wait a minute. What did the robot do? Hey, wait, suicide robot. Great idea.
Kevin,
That's
you need
right
to put it
there.
in your Donald Trump voice, please.
Oh, you want it in the Donald Trump? Okay. It's a great robot that can pick. I can't. Oh man. This
It
is.
can
These
pick
are
up
all,
all the items. It can pick up everything, and we can keep our jobs here in beautiful America because it's fantastic.
no.
It's
First of all,
fantastic
Trump
America.
wouldn't just. No. Trump would not. On it first, this
It's
thing
not
has something
China.
wrong. No, because Donald, you got to understand, Sparky, keep that up, buddy, keep it up. So Donald Trump would not give credit to the robot. Okay, you have to already know that, right? We have to know the person before we just get in there. He would not give credit for the robot except for the robot's suicide, which then he'll discredit as a terrible thing.
And he'll
So
be
Donald
like,
Trump would
"It's
sound-
fantastic because it was from China. That's
Donald
why it
Trump
off itself."
No. Donald Trump would sound a little something like this. We all know the robots, they're everywhere. They're in Amazon. They're great. We love them. We love the robots. The good robots we love, but there are some robots out there that are no good. They're killing themselves. They're coming by and they can't replace American workers, even though they say they can. They can.
The best
We should-
workers, the most fantastic workers.
we should build a wall around the robots. Now, many people, they don't like the wall idea. They're Democrats, they're liberals, they're terrible people. We all know who they are. Nancy
Horrible.
Pelosi.
Horrible people.
Horrible
Despicable.
people. Some people even speculate that Nancy Pelosi's a Terminator. Worst Terminator around. She's been sticking around way too long. Just
They're
run
bringing
on the
drugs
sentence.
across the border.
We're keeping the jobs here. We're giving all the white people their jobs back that they we're giving back from the blacks and then back from the whites and then back from the blacks again. I'm like on that bullshit. You're trying to follow the ping pong of fucking logic, and you're like, sir, what the fuck is going on? Even Joe Biden, if you do an okay Joe Biden impression where he's just like, he'll start off. I call Joe Biden the TikTok president. The only reason I call him the TikTok president is because after about 15 seconds, he realizes nobody gives a fuck about what he's saying. He'll start off by saying, like, I want every American to know that if so, never mind. You know what? No. And you're just like, what the fuck? You can't just say no. You can't just stop your fucking sentence, sir. Go on.
Spot on.
You guys are too funny. You guys are really, really funny. I'm really enjoying myself. Thank you.
We're trying, man. We're trying. Now, we're the least known podcast that should be better known throughout the world. You know, the problem is there is no problem. There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of podcasts out there that are just as fun as and interesting as ourselves out there. So we don't relish the competition. We expect the competition to be there. So that way, when we are at the top, we could say, you know, this is it was an easier road. It was a tough road there. You know, it's just like in the music industry. You can have 1,000 different people play the same song, and then a second song, one person will get it wrong, and by the time you know it, you're still in the room with 50,000 fucking people. This is what puts full leverage on recording studios and big corporations out there because they get the pick of the litter. You know, you can undercut it to the point where you have, and you've probably seen it before, people paying for stage time out there.
Yeah.
Pascal, I have one question to finalize out our show.
Yeah, Tony.
And you could write this down and it would make a fantastic show, or a fantastic song, by the way.
I've got so many good ideas for songs. Lay it on me, Tony.
What's the fastest way to calm a woman down when she's angry?
What's the fast? Well, I better not. My wife is listening to this, so I'll tell you.
The answer is there is none.
Well, yeah.
I don't know, man. I've been in those situations before where I'm just, you know, like, hey, why don't you relax? What the fuck's wrong with you? And that never works. You know, it should work, but you know, it just normally doesn't. I'm actually I'm engaged right now, Pascal, to my beautiful wife. She's unlike any other person I've ever been with before. She is supportive. She is
a pretty amazing woman.
She's smart. She checks every box. And, you know, it's just one of those things where I'm going to find out she is a robot or a Terminator coming back from the past. But for some odd reason, I don't know. Those movies couldn't be any better. The Terminator movies. I just love them.
Hey, man, hold on to her. She sounds like solid gold, buddy. I got lucky after all sorts of misadventures. I met my wife, married now for 25 years, Jack. Solid friggin' gold. If you get one of those, lock it in, scoop her up, man, snap her up.
Now, how did you meet your wife?
Well, I was in I had divorced my ex-wife.
We don't have a lot of time, but we got some time.
Well, I had divorced my ex-wife, and my business partner and I were trying to launch our business, right? So I'm working like a maniac, and our first gig, by the way, was with Ford Motor Company in Detroit. So I spent 3 years pretty much living in Detroit. Anyhow, long story short, my business partner said, "Listen, man, you gotta move on. You know, you gotta start dating again." I said, no, I can't. You know. Anyhow, he put me on some dating app.
Hop back on that saddle, Pascal.
You know what I mean?
Do it.
And I didn't. I ignored everything for like 6 months, and finally,
it wasn't farmersonly.com, was it?
No, I think it was. No, never mind. So yeah, so he would answer, and so that's how I met my wife. And it was my friend, my business partner, said, "You got to meet this girl." I said, "I don't want to meet any girls." Anyhow, 25 years later, you know, I'm still with her. So yeah, I just got lucky.
Good for you.
It's like the racist cannibal that went on blackpeoplemeet.com, and he's like, Tony completely ignored that one.
I did.
Meat,
I way did.
meaning MEAT, and cannibal would be eating people.
All right.
That's
We're
all
going.
right, Tony. Maybe
We're
next.
going. We're going. Pascal, we're going to roll out the red carpet for you, sir. If people are going to find you, listen to your music, of course, how would they get in touch with you, sir?
So my handle on all the channels is Pascal Dennis Music. Pascal Dennis Music. Dennis with 2 N's. Pascal Pascal. Pascal Dennis Music will get you to all the social media, and we're really active. And yeah, we're just having a great time. And it's a lot of fun to meet people like you, man. You guys are really funny.
Thank your wife, by the way, as well, for all the emails back and forth as well. She's very on top of things, which is very rare.
Yes, she is. Well, we appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. Good luck to you, man, and both of you, and you too, Sparky. You haven't said anything, but I assume you're not a robot. From what Tony and Kevin say, you're not a robot.
He could be. Let's see what he draws next. This is
Okay.
going to be the end of our show here, Sparky. What do you got?
Sparky's more like a Windows 95.
Yeah.
Hey, let's see who I can offend tonight. I'm gonna try here to offend somebody.
Oh, we're ready. We're ready.
All right.
Hey, is that the DC model of the robot hanging in the window? I wonder if it knows martial arts.
I don't understand.
It needs a little bit of context, Sparky.
DC, martial arts. Think about it.
And that's why the joke went over
Looking
our
in
head.
the window.
All right. Anyways,
It's
big
the
shout
David
out to
Carradine
Pascal
model, Tony.
Dennis.
The David Carradine model.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right. Nothing like the last episode of Kung Fu where David Carradine took his own life mistakenly while trying to masturbate into a closet. That last.
Yeah, it's not a good way to go. Not a good
That
look.
was a thinker, Sparky. That was
Bit
a
of a-
thinker.
Bit of a poser, yeah.
Guys, if you're gonna watch us, make sure you watch us, like us, share, whatever. Look at all the streams. We're on everything.
Things.
If you want to send us hate mail, you want to send love letters to Sparky, please do it at the Podguyz Podcast at gmail.com. Look for us on YouTube. Our videos are over there as well. Spotify, streaming. We're on every app.
We're doing it all.
We're doing it all. Big news coming up, maybe a little bit later on down the line. We'll see what happens with that.
We do have some big stuff coming up in the new year
stuff.
and a lot of big announcements. So stay tuned for all that. For all you followers out there that were waiting for something big, we've got something big going on.
Always making money moves.
Yeah.
Guys, we are the Podguyz Podcast. I'm Tony Kaz.
Kevin Neary here.
Of course, the ever-loving Picasso.
Take care, you guys.
Okay.
I just got back from Thailand. They say sawadee ka.
Sawadee ka.
Kapkunha. I do a
Have a
lot of
great
good
night, guys.
Japanese, man. Have a good night. Good talking to you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.